The most controversial movie of 2018? It's Lars Van Trier. Did you expect any less? The House That Jack Built is a movie where we follow a serial killer through the years, trying to explain to us why he does the things that he does. Or something like that. Let's get something out of the way right here in the beginning. Much like Van Trier's other movies, this is very much an art house film. Now, how you feel about art house films as a whole will determine greatly how you feel about this movie. We follow Jack over the course of a couple of decades as he tells us, the audience, and an unseen third party about some of his more memorable kills throughout his years of being a serial killer. During the narration between Jack and this unseen person, you get the feeling that he's trying to explain to us and make us understand why he's done the things he does. Jack is not okay. He's a sick motherfucker. This movie's been really controversial for mainly two reasons. One is that there's a lot of philosophical talk between Jack and the unseen man, and some of that talk is what people had issues with. I'm not gonna ruin anything here and say what that talk is, but when you hear it, you'll know it. The other thing a lot of people are talking about is the violence and brutality of the film. I myself personally didn't have a big problem with these two things. With the talk between the two men and the points that Jack's trying to make that people had such issue with. While I don't agree with these things he said, I do think that they're there to illustrate Jack's mindset and how he views situations and articulates things. And I think the movie actually did a really good job with that. Concerning the violence and brutality, honestly, while the movie is violent, it's nowhere near as violent or brutal as most people would lead you to think. Now, there's violence, don't get me wrong, and some of it is brutal, but I think a big part of it is not so much that it's violent or brutal, it's who the violence and brutality is directed towards. While the vast majority of Jack's victims are adults, there are a couple of situations where this is directed at children and at animals. I think this is really what drove people crazy. Now, admittedly, these scenes are difficult to watch, but the filmmakers don't dwell on it nearly as long as they do with the adults. But really, the subject matter here is about a serial killer, and serial killers unfortunately don't just attack adults. While these scenes are more difficult to watch for sure, they do illustrate how awful this world can be at times. And that was their point, and honestly, they were successful there. The movie's also been accused of directing a lot of its violence to women, which while the movie does show violence towards both, most of Jack's violent acts are directed towards women. But look at serial killers of the past. That's unfortunately just how it usually goes. Male serial killers typically target women. I don't really see that as a decision that the filmmakers made. I see that as just how the world is, unfortunately. It's despicable, it's not pleasant, and it's really difficult to watch, but that's the subject matter here. It's not like the movie tried to hide that fact coming in, that it was about a serial killer. That's like going to see The Fast and the Furious and being offended that there's cars in the movie. It goes along with it. Now, the violence itself, while people have really centered on it and said how awful it was and terrible and just disgusting, it's really not. As stated before, there are some violent moments. But the thing that really unnerved me the most was not necessarily the acts it showed on screen, but how long the filmmakers would dwell on said acts. And not even the acts themselves, but more so the lead up to them. The movie becomes really uncomfortable at times because you know what's coming, you just don't know when. And Jack will constantly, sometimes unintentionally, toy with his victims. These are very uncomfortable scenes, but they're supposed to be. The movie's more or less straightforward for the majority of the time, until about the last 10 to 15 minutes, and things take a hard right, and they go from being straightforward to really kind of out there. I get what the movie's doing there, but it was quite a jarring turn. I'm not saying it's bad, but admittedly, I never saw the movie go in that direction. The overall story here is interesting and keeps you engaged, although it is pretty fragmented as well, though that's how they decided to tell the story. And I think that is one more thing that kind of puts you in the mindset of how Jack thinks. All the actors here do a great job. I mean, like, really great job. There's some great performances happening here. Admittedly, in the first half of the film, I was kind of wondering about Dylan's performance and how he was portraying the character. His interactions with other people were very awkward, but then I realized they're supposed to be, because the character of Jack doesn't know how to act around people. He thinks he does, probably from movies and TV and seeing other people, and when he does interact with other people, that's more him acting like other people, acting like he thinks he's supposed to act, reacting like he thinks he's supposed to. And that makes it come off a bit awkward, which when you think about it, someone like this that's so disconnected from the rest of the world, this is the type of thing that they would do. After realizing that, the performance really took off for me. The movie can be a bit pretentious, but that's to be expected with this type of film. At the end of the day, this movie will get you talking, and you'll want to talk to other people that have seen it about it. It will raise many interesting and uncomfortable debates for sure. But I mean, that's a good thing. This movie can be a difficult watch. Not so much because of the violence and brutality and the views that it has or the views that its characters express, but more so because the whole movie's just uncomfortable. Now, it's supposed to be, but that doesn't change the fact that it is uncomfortable and unnerving. Overall, I'd say that The House That Jack Built is worth a rent. You don't have to run out and see it in theaters, if you could even find it, and you definitely don't have to buy it, because I don't really know if you'd watch this movie twice, but it's definitely worth seeing so that you can be in on that conversation. So there it is, guys, my review of The House That Jack Built. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a thumbs up. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.
May I, come in?
I'd like to see a police badge.
My badge? It's, at the silversmith. They're shining it up.
Okay.
Sad thing is, I know people that reply to things like that. Really makes you think, huh?